Dollars and Cents by Dan Ariely and Kreisler. Introduction. Imagine for a moment it's 1975. You're in Hawaii, on the set of a TV game show. The lights are bright, the audience is cheering, and you've just made it to the final bonus round. It's called the Money Volcano. The host leads you to a giant glass box. The door closes, and suddenly, you're inside a tornado of cash. Dollar bills are whipping all around you, a furious whirlwind of money. A buzzer sounds, and for the next 15 seconds, your only job is to grab as much of it as you possibly can. What would you do? You'd go wild. You'd spin, you'd jump, you'd flail your arms, clutching at the air, trying to snatch every last bill before the time runs out. For those 15 seconds, it would be absolutely clear that nothing in the world is more important than money. It's a fun picture, isn't it? A bit absurd. But here's the thing. To a certain extent, we are all living inside that money volcano. Maybe not in such a dramatic way, but every single day, we are surrounded by a whirlwind of financial choices, temptations, and pressures. How much do we have? How much do we need? How can we get more? We think about it constantly. You would think that with all this thinking, we'd be experts at it. We'd be masters of our financial lives. But we're not. The truth is, making bad decisions with money is a hallmark of being human. We are fantastic at messing up our financial lives. And for a long time, the central mystery has been, why? That is the question that the brilliant behavioral economist Dan Ariely, along with his co-author Kreisler, set out to answer in their groundbreaking book, Dollars and Cents. This isn't a book about budgeting or investing in the stock market. It's something much deeper. It's a journey into the hidden psychology of money, a look behind the curtain at the strange, irrational, and often invisible forces that control our wallets. By the end of our time together today, you will understand why you're willing to pay more for something when you use a credit card, why a slower locksmith can feel like a better deal than a faster one, and why the very act of thinking about money can actually make us less ethical. More importantly, you'll discover that our biggest money mistakes don't come from a lack of information, but from a fundamental misunderstanding of what money even is. And once you see that, you can begin to spend smarter, save better, and build a life that's truly rich. Book summary. Let's start with a simple story about a man named George. George is having a stressful week. Work is tough, the kids are fighting, and money is tight. So, on a business trip to Las Vegas, he decides to blow off some steam at a casino. Earlier that same morning, George had walked 10 steps toward a cafe before turning around. Why? Because he realized he could save $4 by just making coffee back at his hotel. He's being frugal, responsible. But that evening, inside the casino, a different George appears. He loses $200 at the blackjack table without even blinking. He even tips the cocktail server $5 for a drink that was already free. Now, think about that. The same man, on the same day. One moment, he's agonizing over a $4 coffee. The next, he's casually tossing away 50 times that amount. What is going on here? This isn't a story about gambling addiction. It's a story about the strange and powerful ways our minds think about money. And it reveals the single biggest money mistake we all make, the one that sits at the foundation of all the others. We fail to understand opportunity cost. That might sound like a term from an economics textbook, but it's a simple, profound idea. The authors explain that money, by itself, has no value. A dollar bill is just a piece of paper. Its only value is what it represents, all the other things you could get with it. Money is a symbol of trade-offs. When you spend $4 on a coffee, you aren't just giving up $4. You're giving up the movie ticket you could have bought with it. Or the book. or a portion of your phone bill. That $4, once spent, can never be used for anything else, ever again. The things you give up are the opportunity costs. In a rational world, every time we pull out our wallet, we should ask ourselves, what am I giving up, now and in the future, by making this purchase? But we don't. Our brains aren't built for that kind of complex, abstract thinking. Imagine you're at a car dealership, about to buy a new car. The authors actually did an experiment like this. They went to a dealership and asked people, if you buy this Toyota, what will you not be able to buy? Almost no one had an answer. The best they could come up with was, well, I guess I won't be able to buy a Honda. They could only think of a simple, direct substitution. Few people said, well, this car means I won't be able to go on vacation for the next 2 years, or I'll have to wait 5 more years to pay off my student loans. Our minds can't hold all those infinite possibilities at once. It's too overwhelming. So, if our brains don't use opportunity cost, what do they use instead? They use shortcuts, mental tricks. And most of these shortcuts are deeply flawed. They cause us to assess the value of things in ways that have very little to do with their actual value. The first, and most powerful, of these shortcuts is called relativity. We have a very hard time judging the value of something in a vacuum. So instead, we judge it by comparing it to other things. Let me tell you about a woman the book calls Aunt Susan. Aunt Susan loves shopping at JCPenney, and she loves a good bargain. For decades, JCPenney operated on a simple model. They would mark up the price of a sweater to $100, and then put a giant sign next to it that said, SAA sale, 40% off F, now only $60. Aunt Susan felt like a genius every time she bought one. She wasn't spending $60, she was saving $40. It was a thrill, a game she was winning. Then, in 2012, a new CEO came to JCPenney and decided this was dishonest. He got rid of all the sales and coupons and just offered fair and square pricing. That same sweater was now just priced at $60. No games. And what happened? Aunt Susan and millions of other loyal customers hated it. They felt cheated. They abandoned the store in droves. Within a year, the company lost nearly $1 billion, and the CEO was fired. Almost immediately, JCPenney went back to the old way. They raised the price of that sweater back to $100, and then put it on sale for $60. And the customers came flooding back. Think about how bizarre this is. People were angry about an honest $60 price tag but were thrilled by a fake $100 price tag that was on sale for $60. The final price was identical. The sweater was identical. But the context had changed. A $60 shirt seems expensive on its own. But a $60 shirt that used to be $100 feels like a bargain. We don't judge the absolute value, we judge the relative value. This happens everywhere. When you're buying a $25,000 car, what's another $200 for a fancy sound system? It seems like nothing relative to the big purchase. But would you ever just walk into a store and spend $200 on a CD changer? Probably not. This leads us to another powerful form of relativity, something called anchoring. Anchoring happens when the first number we see sticks in our minds and influences all our future judgments, even if that number is completely random. In a fascinating study, researchers invited real estate agents to assess the value of a house. They gave them all the exact same information, the square footage, the neighborhood sales, everything. But they changed one small detail, the listing price. Some agents were told the listing price was $119,900. Others were told it was $149,900. What happened? The agents who saw the higher price estimated the home's value to be significantly higher than those who saw the lower price. That first number, the anchor, dragged their expert judgment along with it. And here's the kicker. When asked afterward, most of the agents swore the listing price had no effect on their decision at all. They had no idea they were being influenced. The anchor doesn't even have to be a realistic price. In another famous experiment, students were asked to write down the last 2 digits of their social security number. Then, they were asked how much they would be willing to pay for various items, like a bottle of wine or a cordless keyboard. The results were astonishing. Students with higher social security numbers were willing to pay dramatically more for the exact same items. A number that had absolutely nothing to do with value became the anchor for what they thought something was worth. Once we make a decision based on an anchor, like paying $4 for a fancy coffee for the first time, we start a process called self-hurting. We tell ourselves, well, I paid that much for it last time, so it must be a good decision. Our own past behavior becomes the anchor for our future behavior. We assume our past self was a rational genius, even if he was just acting on a random whim. So, our brains are tricked by context. But that's not the only problem. They're also hijacked by our feelings. And one of the most powerful feelings associated with money is something the authors call the pain of paying. Let's be honest. Spending money hurts. Neurologically, the part of your brain that lights up when you experience physical pain also lights up when you part with your cash. Because it's painful, we instinctively look for ways to reduce that pain. This is the evil genius of the credit card. When you hand over a crisp $100 bill for dinner, you feel the loss. It's tangible. You watch it leave your hand. But when you swipe a piece of plastic, the pain is almost gone. The payment happens sometime in the distant future. The connection between the pleasure of the meal and the pain of the payment is severed. This separation does 2 things. It makes the experience more enjoyable, and it makes us willing to spend more. Studies show we make bigger purchases, leave larger tips, and are more likely to forget how much we even spent when we use a credit card. The authors tell a wonderful story about a honeymoon in Antigua. They decided to buy an all-inclusive, prepaid package. It was more expensive up front, but once they were there, everything felt free. Every meal, every drink, every activity was a delight because the pain of paying was a distant memory. At the same resort, they met another couple, the Smiths, who had chosen the pay-as-you-go plan. Their honeymoon was filled with tension. Every time they wanted a drink or to go on an excursion, they had to have a discussion about the cost. They were constantly feeling the pain of paying, and it was ruining their experience. The vacation was the same. The resort was the same. But by changing the timing of the payment, the entire experience was transformed. This leads to another feeling that powerfully distorts our sense of value, our sense of ownership. Simply put, once we own something, we think it's worth more. This is called the endowment effect. The book tells the story of Tom and Rachel, a couple selling their family home. They listed it for a price they thought was perfectly reasonable. But potential buyers kept pointing out little flaws: chipped paint, an old water heater. Tom and Rachel couldn't understand it. They didn't see the flaws. They saw the spot in the kitchen where their daughter took her first steps. They remembered all the effort they put into their awesome renovations. The house was filled with their memories, their love, their effort. To them, it was special. They expected buyers to see that same special value, but of course, buyers don't have those memories. They just see a house. Experiments show that sellers typically value an item at about twice what buyers are willing to pay for it. This isn't just a negotiation tactic. We genuinely believe our stuff is worth more, simply because it's ours. This feeling is amplified when we put effort into something. The authors call this the IKEA effect. After you spend hours struggling with confusing instructions and a tiny Allen wrench to build a wobbly bookshelf, You love that bookshelf. You made it. You wouldn't part with it for anything. Your effort has endowed it with extra value in your eyes. Hand in hand with ownership comes its painful cousin, loss aversion. Psychologically, the pain of losing something is about twice as powerful as the pleasure of gaining the same thing. Losing $20 feels twice as bad as finding $20 feels good. Because we overvalue what we own, and because we hate losses, we become terrified of giving things up. This is why we hold on to losing stocks for too long, hoping they'll bounce back, because selling them would mean making the loss real. It's why Tom and Rachel were so fixated on what their house could have sold for during the housing boom a few years prior. They were framing the current price as a massive loss from that peak, which made it feel unbearable. Now, let's talk about one of the strangest quirks of all: our obsession with fairness and effort. Imagine you're locked out of your house. You call a locksmith who arrives in 20 minutes. He fiddles with the lock for 2 minutes, the door pops open, and he says, "That'll be $200. How do you feel? Probably outraged. $200 for 2 minutes of work? That's $12,000 an hour. It feels deeply unfair. Now, what if that same locksmith struggled for an hour, broke a few tools, and finally got the door open before charging you the same $200? You'd probably feel much better about paying him. You might even give him a tip. This is completely irrational. In both cases, the outcome is the same. Your door is open. The first locksmith was an expert who saved you an hour of your time. The second one was incompetent. Yet, we feel better paying for incompetence because we can see the effort. We value effort, often more than we value the outcome. This is why we get angry when a store raises the price of umbrellas during a rainstorm. The effort to sell the umbrella hasn't changed, so the price hike feels like pure greed. It feels unfair. And we will often choose to get soaking wet, punishing ourselves, just to punish the store for its perceived unfairness. We reject a good value, a dry trip home, out of spite. So far, all of this might seem a bit bleak. Our brains are full of glitches that make us terrible with money. But the final, and most hopeful, part of the book is about what we can do about it. And it starts with confronting our biggest challenge: self-control. We all have two selves, our present self and our future self. Our present self lives in a world of vivid emotions and temptations. That chocolate cake right in front of you, it's calling your name. That new motorcycle, you can feel the wind in your hair right now. Our future self, on the other hand, is an abstract stranger. Saving money for future you can feel like giving money to someone you don't even know. Who cares about some old person 30 years from now? Present you wants that motorcycle today. This is the core of the self-control problem. We dramatically discount the future in favor of the immediate gratification of the present. This is why a man named Rob in the book, despite earning a good living his whole life, has saved almost nothing for retirement. Every month, future Rob was supposed to start saving, but present Rob always found something more exciting to buy. So how do we overcome this? The authors suggest we don't fight our irrationality head-on. Willpower is a finite resource, and temptation is everywhere. Instead, we should build systems that work with our flawed nature. They call these Ulysses contracts. In the ancient Greek epic, the hero Ulysses knew he wouldn't be able to resist the beautiful, deadly song of the sirens. So, he had his sailors tie him to the mast of the ship. He could hear the song, but he was physically unable to act on his temptation to steer the ship into the rocks. We can do the same with our finances. A 401k retirement plan with automatic deductions is a perfect Ulysses contract. You make one decision, one time, to save. Then, the money is taken out of your paycheck before you ever see it. You have tied yourself to the mast. You don't have to use willpower to resist temptation every single month. The authors share a beautiful story from an experiment in Kenya. To encourage saving, they gave some people a simple golden coin with 24 numbers on it, representing the 24 weeks of the study. They were asked to keep the coin in their home and, each week they saved money, to scratch off a number. Other people were offered financial bonuses for saving, free money ? Which should have been a much stronger incentive. But the coin worked best. By a huge margin. Why? Because saving is invisible. No one sees your 401k balance. But the coin was a physical, tangible reminder. It made the invisible act of saving visible. It made the future goal present in their daily lives. This is the key. The solution to our money problems isn't to become perfectly rational robots. It's to acknowledge our human quirks and design our environment to guide us toward better choices. It's about making saving automatic. It's about using physical reminders. It's about translating abstract dollars into concrete trade-offs. It's about understanding that the battle for financial well-being isn't a battle of spreadsheets and budgets. It's a battle of the mind. And it's a battle we can win. Commentary. As we close the pages of Dollars and Cents, what stays with me most is its profound sense of empathy for our human condition. This book isn't scolding us for our mistakes. It's holding up a mirror and showing us, with warmth and wisdom, why we make them. The greatest lesson is that financial literacy, knowing how to budget or what a stock is not enough. The real key to a healthy financial life is psychological literacy, understanding the hidden scripts running in our own minds. For a young person standing at the beginning of their financial life, this knowledge is nothing short of a superpower. In a world of one-click purchases, buy now, pay later schemes, and frictionless digital payments, the pain of paying has been almost completely engineered out of our lives. Understanding this concept, and consciously choosing to reintroduce that friction, is perhaps the single most important financial habit you can build. So how can you start putting these ideas into practice today? Here are a few simple actions you can take. First, try the 24-hour rule. For any non-essential purchase over, say, $50, force yourself to wait 24 hours before buying it. This simple act of waiting breaks the emotional spell of immediate gratification. It gives your more rational, future-oriented self a chance to weigh in on the decision. You'll be amazed at how many things you thought you needed suddenly seem less important a day later. Second, start translating dollars into life. Before you buy that expensive pair of sneakers or the latest video game, ask yourself, how many hours of my life do I have to work to pay for this? If you work for $15 an hour, a $150 pair of shoes isn't just $150, it's 10 hours of your life. 10 hours you can never get back. Is it still worth it? This simple reframing makes the opportunity cost tangible and real. And finally, for just 1 week, try this experiment. Create a friction jar. Go to the bank and take out the cash you expect to need for the week. For 7 days, pay for everything, your coffee, your lunch, your gas, with physical money. Feel the bills leave your hand. Count the change. Notice the pain. It might feel inconvenient, but I promise you, it will be one of the most powerful financial lessons you ever learn. You will become instantly more mindful of where your money is going. That was a summary of Dollars and Cents by Dan Ariely and Jeff Kreisler. We've certainly hit the highlights today, but I'll be honest with you, a summary can only ever be a map of a beautiful country. The real magic happens when you travel there yourself. It's in the quiet moments, when a particular story or a simple phrase hits you in a way you didn't expect. This summary is designed to help you decide if this book is worth your time. If anything we've talked about today has resonated with you, I encourage you to grab a copy. Reading it isn't just about learning. It's an experience that can genuinely change the way you see yourself, your choices, and the world around you. You'll find a link to the book in the description below. Also, if you found this summary valuable, please take a moment to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. It lets me know that these journeys are meaningful to you, and ensures you won't miss our next exploration into another life-changing book. Let's keep learning and keep growing together.